Happy to introduce our final reader this evening, our special guest for this particular session, Nicole Hardy. And I do want to mention her books are for sale afterward. If you're so inclined, she'd be happy to sign one for you. So that would be really fantastic. All right, Nicole Hardy's memoir, Confessions of a Latter-day Virgin, was published in the U.S. and abroad in August of 2013. Her nonfiction has appeared in the New York Times and selected as notable in 2012's Best American Essays, as well as syndicated in newspapers in both Sydney and Melbourne. Her poetry collections include This Blonde and Mudflap Girl's XX Guide to Facial Profiling. Sounds really good. A chapbook of pop culture inspired sonnets. I don't know why I wanted it to be pop-up.
That would be amazing.
I know, I read that 3 times. I'm like, I know it says pop culture, but I know I'm going to say pop up, and that's what all right. She earned her MFA at the Bennington College Writing Seminars and is a Pushcart Prize nominee. You can visit her at NicoleHardy.com for links to social media, events, readings, and publications. Please give a nice Rosemont welcome to Nicole Hardy.
Thank you so much for being here, and thanks, Carla, for having me. Did you notice Carla and I have the same glasses? It was the first thing I noticed when we came in. So, great style. So in December of 2010, I submitted an essay to the slush pile of the Modern Love column in the New York Times. And 5 days later, I received an email that would change my life forever. They decided to run my column in January of 2011, and 4 days later I signed with an agent, and 5 months later I signed a book deal, and then a year and a half later a book was born. So this just came out last month. I'm kind of on the East Coast leg of my tour right now, and thanks for having me. I'm going to read 2 short scenes, and I should be a tiny bit over 10 minutes, but hopefully you'll forgive me. Oh, and I should tell you what the book is about. I was a devout member of the Mormon Church until I was 35 years old. And the essay that I submitted to the New York Times was about being a devout Mormon, and because I was an unmarried devout Mormon, I was a virgin. And so as I made my way away from my faith, I sort of had to deal with the problems of and realities of such a prolonged and unexpected celibacy. Which is one of the themes in my book, but I'm not going to get too heavy tonight, don't worry. Age 12 is a turning point in the Mormon Church. For me, on that portentous birthday, the heavens opened, the angels sang, because the following Sunday, I would enter the Young Women's program and would never again have to sit with the little kids in primary, be made to sing embarrassing, babyish songs, and be talked to as if I couldn't already read at a 9th grade level. I'd been indignant about primary the entire year prior, about still being categorized as a child by the hierarchies of my church. I was 5'8" and still growing, if only because my parents ignored their doctor's dead serious suggestion to give me growth-stunting drugs at age 2. I wore a bra if only for training, so I was more than ready to become a beehive, the designation for every 12 and 13-year-old Mormon girl. My first Sunday in beehives, I sat in a small semicircle of folding chairs, feeling fancy, in a sea green Laura Ashley dress and my first pair of heels, mauve leather pumps with clip-on bows, a feature that sealed the deal before I even tried them on and practiced walking the plush carpeted runway in brass plum shoes. I wore those heels with pride, though they made me even taller than my father. I wore lip gloss and mascara too for the first time that Sunday, but perhaps the most obvious marker of my status as a young woman was our Sunday school lesson that week, the first of many to come regarding the law of chastity. Sister Jepson, our teacher, stood confidently in a small classroom adjacent to the chapel. She was pale-skinned and dark-haired, thinner and younger than our mothers. All 7 of us beehives wanted to grow up to look exactly like her. She had 6 children, which was hard to believe given her figure. The first was born when Sister Jepson was 19, only 7 years older than I am now, I remember thinking. "Today's the day you should decide," she said, looking each of us straight in the eye. "Make up your minds right now how far you'll let boys go. Then, when the moment comes, you'll never be unsure of what to do. We watched rapt as she turned to the chalkboard and drew a line graph, labeling from left to right, kissing, necking and petting, heavy petting, and intercourse, nouns that seemed old-fashioned and embarrassing. Then she abruptly changed the subject, or so it seemed. She told us how much her husband loves her hair. He'd die if she cut it, he always says, and we agreed it was magnificent. The kind of hair we'd soon be spending all our babysitting money trying to replicate via perming, diffusing, backcombing, and spraying until Aquanet seared our lungs like mustard gas. Sister Jepson segued into the special bond a relationship creates. She assured us there is no more wonderful expression of love between a husband and a wife. Some people think it's okay to have sex before marriage as long as you love the person, she said. But what's wrong with that line of thinking? Mindy Harris, a girl wildly obsessed with Duran Duran's Pompadour drummer Roger, was the first to speak up. What if you fall in love with lots of people before you get married? Exactly, said Sister Jepson. And in another unexpected turn, asked us to raise our hands if we loved mashed potatoes. Our arms shot up. Our mouths began to water in a collective Pavlovian response triggered by fantasies of Sunday dinner. We envisioned the ham, pot roast, or spaghetti that would appear steaming from our kitchens after this, the third and final hour of church. Sister Jepson combed her fingers through her curls until she caught several loose strands. She held them out and asked which of us would eat a plate of mashed potatoes if they were laced with her jet black hair. We groaned in disgust. Mindy Harris pretended to gag. Beautiful things, said Sister Jepson, in the wrong place at the wrong time can cease to be beautiful. She paused to let that idea sink in. And the most beautiful thing about you is your virtue. I want you to make a promise to God right now. How much will you give away before your wedding night, knowing you can never get back what innocence you've lost? She indicated the chalk line, clearly labeled, illustrating the slippery slope to sin and the threat of eternal punishment, God's punishment. And in the silence that followed, I promised to maintain a personal standard corresponding to the church's standard. I'd be married given 6 to 10 more years. Anyone can wait that long. And besides, I remember thinking, is it just me, or does sex seem kind of gross anyway? I mean, he pees from there. And then we're going to fast forward 21 years, at which point in the book I'm still actively Mormon, still unmarried, and of course, still a virgin. This scene happens at a holiday party. I go with my mother to a holiday party for the women of her ward, which is what Mormons call their congregations. The hostess's house is a well-groomed... this one is a scene within a scene, so I'm at the party, then I go somewhere else, then I come back to the party, so follow. The hostess's house is a well-groomed suburban McMansion, tastefully painted, tastefully landscaped. Inside, every light is on, and through the windows I can see dozens of women decked out in cashmere, sequined scarves, rhinestone earrings, and holiday pins. Their laughter carries through the open windows to the front walk, where I'm carrying a re-gifted bag of homemade toffee. Before we can knock, the door bursts open with a merry hello, and you look so pretty, and hugs from my 10th grade seminary teacher, my young women's advisors, and nearly every other woman in my mother's ward. I'm happy to see them, these women who helped shape my childhood and adolescence. I pour myself a mug of spiced apple cider and move through the throng to the living room. Perched on the arm of the family room sofa, I'm on the periphery of a conversation that vacillates between recipes for yams and the latest Harry Potter book. I don't know anything about either subject, so I drink my cider and listen. The woman next to me leans over. "How'd you manage to get a tan in November?" she asks. I look down at my arm, surprised any trace of it is left. "I went scuba diving in Aruba a few weeks ago for my birthday," I tell her. "Ooh, fun," she says. "Who'd you go with?" "Myself," I reply. And after three full seconds of silence, she sort of laughs and says, "What a waste." I look up from my mug sharply. A waste of what? Money? I'd earned it. Time? Also mine, and well earned. I'd had a glorious vacation, including a week-long PG-13 romance with an incredibly fit, trilingual Greek Orthodox Reuben dive instructor who didn't drink and respected the fact, or pretended to, that he wasn't getting laid. I saw Lorenzo the first full day of my vacation at 8 a.m. on the deck at the marina, at the dock at the marina, where I checked in for my dive. He was shirtless, lean and muscular, tasked with lifting things, getting tanks of air on board, and arranging bags of gear. I tried hard not to notice the musculature of his back and his chest and his legs. His dark hair was cut short enough to highlight his round, slightly comical ears. And when it was time to board, I heaved over the duffel bag that contains my mask, fins, snorkel, buoyancy control vest, rash guard, board shorts, towel, sunblock, lip balm, dive log camera, water bottle, and wide tooth comb, and spray-on leave-in conditioner. He took the bag in one hand and held out the other to guide me over the gap between the dock and the boat. "Watch your head," he warned, right before I smashed my skull against a metal bar so hard it rang like a bell. Everyone aboard, crew and passengers alike, stopped mid-sentence, waiting to see if I'd bleed or fall down. Lorenzo came to check on me when the boat was anchored at the dive site, all of us squirming into wetsuits, balancing against the slight rocking of the boat. "Your head, it's okay," he asked, smiling. "I would be sad to lose you at 75 feet. "I'm fine," I assured him, handing back the ice pack that had long since turned to warm blue liquid. "Let me see," he said, scrutinizing the lump above my temple. "I was thinking maybe you have a disease." "Excuse me?" "Something terribly wrong to make your skin so pale and to make you not see so well." He imitated me crashing into the metal bar, stumbling blindly, arms out like Frankenstein. "Nice," I said over his laughter. "Charming." "I'm even more charming at dinner time," he said, handing over my fins. And that night he took me dancing and to a candlelit restaurant that boasts the island's most delicious plantains. Afterward, ignoring my mother's warnings about strange men, the cover of night, foreign countries, and deserted expanses, we walked holding hands along the edge of the surf outside my hotel until Lorenzo guided me to a picnic table in front of a darkened cabana. I sat with my feet dangling. He stepped between my legs and tilted my face toward his. He kissed me slowly until I felt hypnotized by his breath and body, the waves rolling to shore and the breeze in the palm trees nearby. I only had to wonder momentarily what he was doing with his hand in the waistband of his pants. I didn't even have time to say, "Is that a gun in your pocket?" before he pulled out a gun.
Oh.
He set it down on the table beside me. He set it down on the table beside me. Lost my place. And leaned in again, as if I wouldn't notice the deadly weapon 3 inches from my thigh. As if my mouth had not gone dry, a cold surge had not gone running through my body. "So this is the part where I get raped and killed?" I asked, pulling away, feeling a rush of disbelief more than fear. "That's what's happening," I said. "No," he said loudly, and then softer, "No, Carino." He moved a stray hair from my face. "I'm a police officer. The island is small. I carry my gun." "No," I corrected him, as if he were deaf or stupid. "You work on a dive boat." "On weekends, I work on the dive boat." He put a hand over my heart. "I thought I told you this. I'm sorry to frighten you." "So why didn't you just keep it where it was?" "I was afraid you'd find it on your own, and then I would be frightened." He laughed, running a finger lightly over the bruise on my head. "Darling, you are not so coordinated." I smiled grudgingly, and he leaned in to kiss me again, to pick up where we left off. And I let him, and later I took him upstairs to my hotel room, gave his hands and mouth permission to wander, because he did not need anything, he said, except to please me, and because I needed to be reminded, if only for an hour, that I'm a woman in possession of a woman's body. I looked back at the woman next to me, unable to respond to "what a waste" as a conversational gambit. I don't blink either. I sit still, bug-eyed, trying to figure out something polite to say. The church lady, whose name I don't even know, finally says huffily, "Well, I guess I just don't like myself that much," and turns her attention elsewhere. I stand up ostensibly to refresh my mug of spiced cider and am intercepted by Miranda, a friend of my mother's, who greets me with a hug and congratulations. My mom was just telling her I've had my first poem accepted for publication. Caught up in Miranda's hug, I'm embarrassed at how emotional I feel, at how much this tiny accomplishment means to me. I laugh and put a hand over my face to hide the blush that's risen to my cheeks. Miranda gives me another mom-like sideways squeeze. "I'm so happy for you," she says. Another woman from the ward walks by just then, someone I don't know well. She hasn't heard the conversation, just sees the blush in my cheeks, my bashful pride. The woman's eyes light up, and I think she's simply saying hello when she reaches for my hand, until I see the confusion on her face, until I realize she's looking for an engagement ring, the thing she's sure Miranda and I must be talking about. "It's not that," I say quickly, pulling my hand back. "I write poems. One of my poems is getting published." "Oh, like children's books?" the woman asks. "No," I say, "like sonnets," even though the poem about to be published is not a sonnet. "How nice," she says with an encouraging smile. "It's good. You have something to keep you occupied." Wow. I smile stiffly and turn away from her because I'm this far from asking what the fuck she thinks I do all day. But even through the surge of anger that's rising, I remind myself of what I know is true. She means well. They all do. These women want me to receive all of God's blessings, many of which can be bestowed only after my temple marriage, which should be my first objective. Everything I've done so far, my 2 graduate degrees, my international travels, my teaching career, my friendships, my creative pursuits, is preparing, treading water, keeping time, staying busy until real life begins.